Hey kids, welcome to Stylus Rebel Effects type thing! Today we're going to be doing a swarm of things. This is a little bit of a particle thing. If you have no experience with particles whatsoever, I want you to just stop, go to my effects playlist and start from the beginning. I'll mention which modules I'm using and which buttons and stuff I'm playing with, but I go over every single thing that I'm going to use today in my overall particles video. So today we're just going to do a specific thing, which is a swarm of things. Not quite lined up. Bloop. So the first thing about swarms, if you're using bugs, you need to know that particle effects, and let's use the gravity one. I just drag this in here. I'm gonna hack out some stuff out of here so that it's like this. I don't use the basic one because this one has a little bit more love in it. I just prefer the gravity one. But within our node here, we have the ability to tell our sprite emitter to use drawings in various ways. Today we're going to be using the age, and we're going to be cycling it, but we need to know how long our cycle is going to be in the first place. But the important thing to know is that your sprite emitter wants a single drawing here. It's not going to be okay if you put a full rig in here. It wants just an image. I don't know if there's a way to put something between your rig and the sprite emitter to have it think it's an image. So if one of you smarty kids out here knows a way to do that, please let me know. So I just grabbed a PNG of these adorable little potato men that my 3-year-old drew. We're gonna see, yeah, it will take PNGs. Whoa! So if you do have a animated rig cycle that you want to use, you can convert that to a PNG sequence, or you can just put thousands of potato men. So many potato men! And that's gonna get around this. So PNG sequence if you animate your character, but I like to animate my bug. This time we'll just do a little... My harmony just crashed. That's not okay. I have to draw a whole new bug. So I at least get to keep... I don't even get to keep my drawing colors. Alright, and we got a little butterfly. Flappy, flappy, flappy. And let's say we want them to be real gentle, so we're going to put them on 2s. Exposure, so exposure to 2s. A flappy flap. So beautiful. Now we're going to name this bug. Is a butterfly a bug? And what's the difference between a moth and a butterfly? Are moths just fuzzier? Is that what it is? Bees. So it already has bees. Let's pull in our bee swarm and just see what's going on. So here we've got these crazy bees happening. And we can take a look inside and see what's going on. So we have a 3D region hooked up to the sprite emitter. So boop, we can take a look at our 3D region. It's a sphere. So we're getting a sphere of bees. And if we look inside our drawing of our bees, we can see we have an 8-frame cycle on a bunch of layers. It's actually quite a big bee. That's a little bit surprising. And the bee itself is actually going around in a circle. So where your drawing is located is going to make a difference. In our bug drawing, I've put it directly in the center. And if you decide you want to change it a little bit, remember that you can affect all your layers by using this apply to line and color art. So we're going to select this. If we do this and select the whole thing, it's going to do all the layers. Maybe we want it to be a little smaller and a little fatter. If we do it this way, we can reposition all our drawings at the same time. If we decide we want all of our guys to do that. Remember, there's different ways to affect all your sprites together so you don't have to edit them one at a time. And this I feel is nice. We can, if we want to, let's just copy our bug and paste it in the bees. Boop. And immediately we've got just this pile of bugs that are moving across the scene. So this this peg, it's outside of our bees here. You can see that's where the animation is coming from. And it's hooked up to our particle visualizer transformation tab dealy thing. So this just is like a global movement thing. It's kind of like your apply peg transformation, where it's going to move everything above it uniformly. And because our butterflies aren't moving in any particular direction, they're just going to float along here. But you can see they're flapping if you zoom in. We've got a little flap happening. So instead of the bees node, boop, I mean, that's a perfectly good place to start. I like to start with the gravity node because it's my favorite one. So let's copy our bug, bring it in, paste it here. I'm going to, now here's our, let's Bruh. Our gravity, we're gonna turn that down a whole lot, like 0.01. I don't even know if I'm gonna keep it, but I'm gonna turn it down way, way low. I'm gonna keep the 3D region so that we have a variance of size with these dudes. And here I'm going to replace the drawing with our bug, and we're going to take a look down here. Our bug has a 12 frame cycle, so inside of our sprite emitter, we are going to ask it to use the age of our butterfly. Whoa! I'm really glad this is happening. We're going to use the age of the butterfly. We're going to do a normal cycle. We don't need it to go back and forth or anything. And it is 12 frames long. Now our butterflies will be flapping. Let's just take out the velocity. That's what's causing everything to do this. And I'm just going to make 2 at a time at 12%. So we're going to have much fewer. You can see there, it's just creating some falling butterflies, and they're just flapping. Here's our 3D region. Default is a sphere. Boop. I think I'm going to keep that because a sphere is a nice group for a collection of bugs to kind of hang around in. And personally, I like to have my sphere very long so I get a lot of scale difference. So you're going to enable the 3D here on this peg. So I'm opening my box here and enabling 3D. So when I go to my perspective view, you can see how thin, like it claims this is a sphere, but come on guys. That's not a sphere. If I shift R, because if you just scale it up, it's not going to scale it in the Z depth because you don't have control of your Z depth when you have a 2D peg. So let's scale it up, but we're going to scale it back a whole lot. You can also do that in your coordinates and control points. You don't have to muck around in here too much. So you can just say, 15, 15, 15, and have a sphere that way, and make 25 for the depth. And hide it. So you can see that our butterflies are getting more of a scaling difference. Some are big and some are small. I like that. So if we take out everything, then our guys are just going to exist in space. But as time goes on, we get a new one and a new one and a new one. So another part of having a swarm is you're going to want to have the entire swarm visible at the beginning. So let's take a look and see how they did this with the bees. And it's really great that they have so many different examples in here, because you can just pop this open and say, okay, what did they do in their sprite emitter to just have a pile of bees? They have 5 particles and 100% probability of generating the particles. And I'm going to pop down here and take a peek. The pre-roll frames are 50, and the maximum number of particles is 150. So if you do the math here, you get 5 particles 100% of the time on every frame. So 5 times 50, 250. So that's quite a bit higher. That's higher than the maximum number of particles. So by the time it starts, it's surpassed the maximum number of particles. It cannot generate any more. That's what we're going to do on ours as well. I'm going to do it a little bit simpler. I was going to say I would like 25 bugs. The probability is at 100% for everybody. All right. Then I'm going to come down here. Boop. Number of pre-roll frames. I'm just going to jack that up a whole pile. And the maximum number of particles is 25 because that's how many I said I want. So that's great. Now we've got our little army of butterflies. But the next problem, they're all flapping in unison. So let's address that problem. And that's how particles work. You have a problem, you fix the problem. Age of birth, 0. That's fine. Age of birth deviation. So this means every one of these guys is going to have a different age of birth. And I'm going to say 12. So this can give it 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 as they're being generated. And now each one of them has a different timing. Easy as that. And that's in your age. So it's just saying that their age is different. And because the rendering strategy is using the age, that's how we're going to get our variable timing in there. Flappy, flappy, flappy. The next thing, moving the swarm. The easiest way to do it is to just move it along with some kind of a peg. So we could use our transformation port on our particle visualizer. That's what the bees have done. And when you have a big z-axis like this, you're going to get Z movement in your swarm. So if this is what you want, then you're a happy camper. If not, then you're going to have to bring that z-axis down in your 3D region. You don't want that depth. I like it because, I mean, it looks cool. Like you're getting depth. And with bugs, you don't want things to go super uniform. You could even give this a 3D peg, and then you could move your swarm using the 3D of your peg. So not only are you getting the depth of the sprites, because if you look at your perspective, your sprites are all over the place. But then you can animate in 3D as well, and you're gonna get all sorts of neat stuff happening with your swarm. It does look very CG, so there's that, but you will get more interesting movement than if you just traced a flat one across the screen. The next way to move it is by using the nodes. And if Scripter's out there and he's like, geez, I'm super bored, what I really like in here is kind of like a magnet like they made with a master controller, because there's nothing that's kind of just, I mean, the gravity moves things in a general direction, but things move at the same pace. So one thing you can do is set a few keys. I think it's just like a variable gravity would be nice. I'm not sure. I haven't done 3D particles in a long time, so I'm not sure what kind of toys they have. But right now, here, we can just move our Y up and down and give it a little bit of a curve. So this is just the Y-axis of our gravity. So it's going to start at 0, a little bit low, like just below 0. It's going to go up above 0, and it's going to go down below 0. And whoops, even that, I'm working with very small numbers here. This is 0.3, so I guess not that small. Bring it down to 0.09. Going up, and then it'll start coming back down again. Whoop. And you can see they're changing direction. Whoop, whoop. So the advantage to this, even though this looks like totally bonkers, but the advantage is that your particles will follow the direction that it's going in. Boop. And that's within your sprite emitter here. It just went right off the page there. Bye, guys. So within your rendering, it has a line with direction. So I can turn that off, and they're always going to be facing in the same direction, but the whole reason you'd use this is so that you'd have them going and kind of aiming their little faces. There you go. So they're moving up and down, and they're changing direction. So as you can see, they move very simultaneously when you do this, which is a little bit frustrating, and the turns are not smooth because these characters are not made to just flip easily. With little bugs, it's not really a big issue, or if you're having them move a little bit in more of a smoother way where they kind of go over here and then turn around and come back or something like that, you can combine these. So you'd use the flip, like the way I put something in here, the 3D node, so you could have it give a turn and stuff and move around and kind of hide some of this jumping. But it is good that they aim in a certain direction. And you can play around with this. You can tell it to match the X direction, positive X. So now they're flipping on a different axis, positive Y, negative Y. So you can plan for your stuff to move in the direction that you need it to. Overall, it works best when your swarm is moving in one direction, and it's very hard to stop them also. Alright, so if they all have to head in this direction, whee, then you get a little bit of variety in your swarm. Or if they're continuing along a direction but they're going up and down, that'll also be okay. Let's say they come along down here, and then they want to start going up. So here in our Y, we're going to bring it up again. So here you can see that we're getting that turn because they're starting to go up and the bugs are turning. So that's something I don't want. I'm going to turn off align with direction, and now they're going to stay the way that they were, and they're going to follow that direction. So as I said, I like to combine these two because this way, sometimes, like in this case, the align with direction isn't helping. In many cases, it does help sell the movement. But I like combining that with the 3D-ness of these guys. So we'll just have them start like that, and then turn like that. So there, we're getting some awkward movements because I'm just slapping in keys. But you can see how combining the two things can get you some interesting effects with these swarms, especially if you're gonna go in and make your timing a little less bad and have a plan. Ooh, awkward. Some awkward movement. So play around with that sort of stuff and you can work on getting your stuff looking exactly the way you want it. The good thing about particles is if you have to do a ton of different things, then you're going to be able to do them faster. The downside is your control is much more limited. Getting randomness in here, like the random, I don't know, this does nothing. Like acceleration, I could say random acceleration, but those guys are still accelerating at the same pace. I don't care what this thing says, it does nothing. Speed, give me some random parameter. You're doing nothing for me. Throwing like an explosion or a velocity in at the beginning, it can be a little bit dicey. So if I just take that out for a minute, I'm gonna take a bunch of stuff out so you can see what's happening. So the velocity is your best bet for getting random, because I mean you could have it literally say to go randomly in directions. Give it a little bit of variable speed and try and keep it very limited. So see, now our creatures are being populated in a little bit more of a random. They have an initial velocity when they start, and that'll give you some randomness, but I find sometimes it's not as cooperative with the pre-roll frames. That's not too bad. So velocity is going to give you a little bit more uniqueness, but again, when you throw in that initial velocity, then you've got to fight that with your gravity and your other stuff. So it's about balancing everything and finding what works best. I use this if I need to do a lot of bugs that are going in one direction, so ants going across the screen, something like this where I have to do a bunch of moths that are flying off into space. It's tricky if you have bugs that are doing very specific things. So if you have bugs spelling out a word like hi, but it's made of bugs, you'll never ever get that to happen with the particle effects in here. It's just not possible. There's no way to say congregate here that I can find. I mean, stuff like the vortex and the orbit, there are, like, adding in orbits can give you some options for getting some interesting effects, because things go around like this. So if you want your bugs to say, do this, then getting an orbit in there and playing around with that might work, but it's not a precise science, okay? If you need something ultra precise, here's the way I balance it. If it's really precise and there's not a lot of frames, I'll animate it by hand. I'll do every single bug individually. If it's a lot of frames, if it's 500 frames, and I've got 25 or 50 bugs, it's not going to be worth my time. If I could get away with 3D paths, maybe some shared 3D paths, that might be okay. So here, we're just going to create an independent bug. Boop. Oh, remember, if you've got your peg, you have 3D path and separate. I'm going to use this 3D path. Hit Shift F11 and boop, cycle my bug. And now I can say, frame 1, you're here. Boop, end of the scene, you're there. And I need you to fly along all these paths. Boop. So this is the spline tool, Shift F11. This type of thing where I'm hitting P and adding points on my spline only works in 3D paths. I think I went over all this in the motion path episode. So now my bug is going to follow this very specific path. If I need something really specific like this, I'll do that. I'll create 2, then I'll copy those 2 and create 4, and then I'll copy those 4, create 8, and then I'll Control Shift G, and it will boop group all of these guys in a group with a composite, so I don't have to connect them because I'm super lazy, and then ungroup them. So now I've got all these different ones. I'm gonna be able to just move them all a little bit. Shift F11, and now you've got all these paths. So we're just gonna move them a little bit, crossover. You can cross the streams here, that won't be a problem. Maybe they all gotta get a little bit higher here. And then they're all going towards shared direction over here. And there you go. You've got a little bit of a swarm. Weep, yip, yip. Doing something like this, like flying through an obstacle course or something. So motion paths might be a better choice over particles, depending on specificity. But here, your cycles have to get staggered, so you're going to have to go through these guys and make sure your cycles are staggered, or else they're all flapping together. That looks dumb. A good way to do that is cycle well beyond where you need to, and then on each one, boop, let's say the first one we're going to have starting at 1. The next one we're going to chop 4 off. So I'm going to right click, exposure, clear the exposure and pull. So that's going to drag it back. So as long as your exposure is going past, let's say you only have 60 frames, that's going to work. The next one we're going to chop 2 off, clear exposure and pull. Next we're going to do this many. Now they're flapping at different rates. And they still got some awkward movement. Loosen up our curves here. Butterflies aren't known for their super sharp turns, are they? But this is certainly going to be faster than setting a ton of keys. La 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 la. So elegant and fabulous. Alright, let's just turn it all on so we have a wonderful bug moment. Both of them definitely have places where they're going to shine. Just be willing to play around a little bit. The more ways of doing something you have in your head, the less time you have to spend trying to figure out how to do it. Like if you have 3 or 4 different ideas in your head, you can say, okay, how complex is this? How many bugs are there? And what's going to be the fastest way to get where I want to do? So that's it for today. I didn't use creepy bugs because I have nightmares of creepy bug times. But thanks for dropping by. Like, share, subscribe, all those things internet people ask you to do. And I will see you next time.